Give me 1 minute. Yeah. Let's start today's session. This is the second demo lecture of .NET Core. In the last lecture, we just discussed introduction to .NET Core. That means what subjects I'm going to cover in .NET Core, like C#.NET, ASP.NET with MVC, Entity Framework, Web API, as well as MS SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server. Okay, so this we discussed in the last lecture. Those who are new to this session, I strongly recommend to watch this lecture video. Once you complete this demo lecture, today's demo lecture, our team will send the link also yesterday what we discussed, that video link, so you can please watch it now. Okay, after session. And today we'll start from here where I stop. So just I have given basic information yesterday session, what subjects I'm going to cover in .NET. Each subject purpose is what we discussed, right? So, and .NET introduction also I included, like .NET is the product of Microsoft. First version of .NET was released in the year of 2002, but there are two standards are there, like .NET Framework Standard and .NET Core Standard. From 2002 to 2016, there was .NET Framework, which makes platform dependent style. From 2016 to till 2025, .NET Core Platform, it's called platform independent style. So dependent means which can run on all operating systems, including Windows. Dependent means which can run on only Windows operating system. Platform independent means which can run on all operating system. So today I'm going to discuss version history. Means from 2002 till 2025, what versions are exist. Okay, like .NET Framework version and then core version. But obviously our topics are related to core version only, not .NET Framework version. Okay, yes. So already I have some version history for my previous batch. So instead of writing again and again, just better to place this version history. Okay, yeah. Just give me 1 second. This is the version. And look at this. This is core version as well as framework version. Both are there here. So try to understand. Yes. So .NET Framework along with that Visual Studio version I'm including, sir. So in the year of 2002, that means 2002, .NET Framework first version 1.0. At that time, Microsoft released VS, means Visual Studio. What is Visual Studio? Here, Visual Studio is an editor tool. Yes, it is an editor tool. Okay, so Visual Studio is an editor tool which is used to write .NET code and execute. So Visual Studio is one of the editor for .NET programmers. So Microsoft released 1.0 .NET Framework. At the time of 1.0, there was an editor tool called VS, Visual Studio. Later, they released 1.1 Visual Studio 2003, 2.0 Visual Studio 2005, 3.0 framework. There was no Visual Studio separately. They announced only not applicable means Visual 2005 only they were recommended to use for 3.0 and 2.0 both editors. And 4.0, that means Visual Studio 2010, 4.5 2012, 4.6 2015, 4.7.1 and 2 2019, 4.8 is the last framework version VS 2022. Yes, in Visual Studio 2022. But you may get doubt here. One conflict statement is there, right? So don't worry. Sir, you said 2002 to 2016 there was .NET Framework only. But here 4.8 still after 2016 also released? Yes, that is what I'm saying. Even 2016 on after, along with core framework, .NET Framework also, they have released some versions like 4.7, 4.8. This is the last. Okay. But from 2016, along with 4.7, 4.8 framework, who wants to develop their application with core platform, they were released .NET Core versions. Core versions, I clearly mentioned these are the core versions. .NET Core 1.0 2016, 2.0 2018, to 3.0 2019. These are the year of release. But Visual Studio 2020 only they recommend to use. Okay. 3.0, 3.1, 5.0. From .NET 5.0 onwards, .NET Core 5.0 onwards, Microsoft stopped calling the .NET as Core. They used to call .NET 5, .NET 6, .NET 7, .NET 8 like this. We are in .NET 8, okay, which is released in 2024 year. .NET 9 also there in 2025, but I recommend you to do .NET Core 8 only. So .NET Core 8, Visual Studio 2022, you are going to learn. Okay, this is the version history. It's not important, but just better to know this. Okay, fine. Now coming to this, I said .NET, uh, in .NET, we are going to learn what language are C#.NET. But Microsoft Corporation .NET languages are different. Like not only C#.NET, like C#.NET is there, VB.NET is there, J#.NET is there, F#.NET is there. Okay, JScript.NET is there. Okay, JScript.NET, C++.NET is there. Iron Ruby, like Iron Python. These are the flavors actually. So there are plenty of languages are there in .NET Microsoft Corporation. So Microsoft released .NET languages are many, all around 60 plus programming languages are support .NET. Yes, really. But in that we may not use all, which is not required also. Okay. Python students, they go for Iron Python flavor for fulfilling their requirement with .NET. Okay. But our language is C#.NET only. I'm saying that Microsoft .NET supports plenty of languages. But one of the popular language in this is C#.NET, which is most commonly and oftenly used language, which will provide a lot of features. Okay, so that's what our language is, C#.NET. Now, when the moment we write code, okay, when we write code in C#.NET language standard, how the code is going to be processed to execute. Okay, normally when we write the code, that code is source code, right? The source code need to be compiled and after that run. But I'm telling you .NET code execution processor. This is important to know that. So .NET code execution process, .NET code execution process. So in C#.NET, when we write the code, that is called source code generally. Any programming language code, whatever you write as a programmer, that is called what's that? Source code, right? So here I'm trying to say source code. SC means source code. Okay. So SC, source code, is compiled by language compiler LC, that is. After successful compilation of the source code by language compiler, it produces a special code that is called MSIL or CL code. I'll tell you what is MSIL. MSIL means Microsoft Intermediate Language Code or Common Intermediate Language Code. And after that, this code can be transferred to CLR, Common Language Runtime, JIT compiler. And then it produces a native code, that means bytecode. And this code can be transferred to operating system for further procedure. Yes. But here, up to here, MSIL code, first compilation will take place. There are two compilations takes place in .NET program execution. This is first compilation. And then JIT compiler is the second compilation of the program execution. This is first compilation. And second compilation is, this is CLR JIT compiler, second compilation. Okay. First compilation and second compilation. And listen carefully. First, let me write the abbreviations. SC means what I said, source code. LC means language compiler. LC means language compiler. MSIL means Microsoft Intermediate Language Code. And CIL means Common Intermediate Language Code. And CLR, it's very important component in entire the .NET Common Language Runtime. And JIT means Just-in-Time Compiler. just-in-time compiler. So these are the abbreviations. Okay, fine. So this source code, how we are going to write using C#.NET, right? Yes. Once you write source code using C#.NET, then C# language compiler will takes place the code execution. So this source code is compiled by C# language compiler, and after successful compilation, if there is no error, then it produces what code? MSL code, Microsoft Intermediate Language Code, or CL, Common Intermediate Language Code. But this code is not a byte code, right? Or native code, like system understandable code, not. It's still in English language code. This is high level language code. But this code up to here, first compilation takes place. So language compiler will compile the source code, what we write and what we have written, and this produce MSL code. Then in the second compilation, this MSL code can be transferred to CLR JIT compiler. Yes, CLR is the main component in entire .NET execution process. Strictly remember how Java people, they use JVM architecture, Java virtual machine. Same in C#.NET or .NET we use CLR architecture, common language runtime. It's having a compiler called JIT compiler. So the MSL code can be compiled by just-in-time compiler, and after that it will transfer to CLR. CLR will execute the code and it will produce finally native code. This also called as byte code, means system understandable codes are actually, this is byte code. This code can be transferred to operating system for further process. Yes, obviously. Because byte code can be transferred to operating system, and operating system will consider this code in binary format like zeros and ones. It will process and it will produce the output. So every time when we write C#.NET language code, whenever the moment I hit the run button for execution, compilations will take place like this, and we will see the output which is produced by operating system. Final output we are seeing in the output window. So this is the procedure which is going to happen in .NET execution. So first compilation, always it will take little bit time because maximum portion of the code is compiled by language compiler, that is in first compilation, and minimum portion of the code is compiled by CLR JIT compiler, that is in second compilation. Okay, so this is second compilation of the program, but second compilation is faster rate of first compilation because minimum code only can be compiled by JIT compiler only. So this is code execution process in .NET, how it is going to be processed internally. So what components are involved in the code execution process, you must aware, because in interviews you might face some questions related to this. That's what I included. And coming to this, yeah, there are two major components involved in .NET. Okay, without having the knowledge of these two components, you can't start the programming part. So that's what I'm telling you. What are the .NET components? There are two important components are there. Without these two components, we can't write .NET code. We can't execute the .NET code, .NET components. First component is base class library, BCL. It also called as framework class library, FCL. So BCL stands for base class library, base class library. Okay, FCL stands for framework class library. This is FCL. Same, both are same. And next component is CLR. Just know what we included in .NET code execution process like CLR, common language runtime, common language runtime, CLR. See, remember, if you want to write a .NET code, base class library or framework class library component is required. Without help of this component, you can't write .NET programs. Like coding, we cannot write. And after completion of writing coding successfully with the help of base class library or framework class library, do you want to execute your program or run your program? Then what is required? CLR is required. That means common language runtime is required. Yes, CLR is compulsory required. So without having base class library, you can't write the code. Without having common language runtime CLR, we can't run the code. but according to our requirement, writing code is important to us and execution of the code also important to us, right? Both is mandatory. Now let's explain what is base class library. So base class libraries, okay. So these are base class libraries. These are building blocks of .NET Core. Building blocks of .NET. These are just like header files in C, C++ and packages in Java. How Java people they use packages, how C language programmers or C++ programmers they use header files before writing code. Same like base class libraries or framework class libraries are in .NET. These are the building blocks of .NET, which is really important. Okay, header files. And the base class library BCL in the form of two ways, in the form of two different ways, What are the two different ways means? One is .exe, next one is DLL. Yes, this is the form actually, DLL. .exe is nothing but it's an executable file, right? Yes, executable file it is. So it's having an entry point. Entry point in the sense every program entry point is what? Main method. Yes, it's having main method. So .exe is nothing but it's executable file. It's having an entry point that's having main method. Main method means entry point only. From where the program is going to begin, that is called entry point, that is main method. So when you double click on .exe, automatically you will get output because it's having an entry point. From there it is going to be start and it will show the output clearly. That's what it is, an entry point, and we can call it this is. Okay. So it's having an entry point. That means .exe file directly will execute, individually will execute. But whereas DLL stands for Dynamic Link Library. DLL means Dynamic Link Library. It's don't have any entry point, like no entry point. That means no main method, no entry point I'm saying. So DLL is a dynamic link library. It's not having an entry point. It's not main file. Rather, we can say it is a supportive file. Yes, it will support to .exe file while executing. No entry point, supportive file it is. Okay. So this is DLL. Dynamic means running time, sir. Program execution time. Link means just adding some required libraries. While your application running, whatever the executable file is required some libraries, this DLL file will be added to this .exe. So DLL file is important in .NET. So in our application development, I'll show you how to prepare DLL file, your application code. And once you create a DLL file, that DLL file we can use as a supportive file in any application. So most of the real-time implementation in .NET, DLL file through, they'll do that because code reusability is important here. Code reusability means once we prepare for your application some DLL files, that DLL files we can add with little or no modification into other application directly we can use without rewriting code again and again. So we will save the time and development cost also will be reduced. Already, if available file code is there, that we can reuse it, right? So instead of developing from the scratch, that's not required. So that's what DLL files will provide code reusability option. It's called supportive file also. So base class libraries or framework class libraries are very, very important while developing the applications. So these are the header files. Most of the base class libraries will come by default when we install .NET framework. But sir, one more important here information. Some student ask me .NET framework or .NET Core framework, do we need to install separately? No. The moment when we download and install Visual Studio 2022, along with Visual Studio 2022, these all .NET Framework and Core Framework, everything will install automatically. It is integral part of Visual Studio 2022 only. Any explicit libraries which you are really required for your application, So most of the common libraries will get automatically once we install Visual Studio 2022, but any explicit libraries are there and we can import it separately. We can download it and install it from NowGet package library concept is there. That through I can do it. So these two under comes into base class library. So I'm saying that I'm concluding that without base class libraries, we cannot write .NET code. But base class libraries are system-defined libraries are there, user-defined libraries are there. Library means what? Collection of built-in classes. Each class contain what? Built-in methods. Each method is having some implementation. These are ready-made resources. I'm saying that. So ready to use it. You can import it and use it. No need to implement from scratch. Okay, that's the importance of base class library. So user-defined library means as a programmer, we can prepare our own libraries also with our classes and all. Your own implementation through, we can do it, no problem. But most of the cases, we use directly what .NET offer libraries that we can use it. But in case in your application, you want to prepare your own library with your own classes and implementation, that also possible. So this is base class libraries or framework class libraries. Now, next component is without common language runtime like CLR, you can't execute .NET program because this is writing code or implementing logic purpose. These libraries are useful. But once you done the implementation of application, next procedure is what you need to execute your code, right? For execution point of view, which is required, CLR is required, like common language runtime is required. But CLR alone, will it work in the execution procedure? No. CLR is having 4 subcomponents within it. Then under the CLR, the each subcomponent will work efficiently. So just because of the each component is working perfect, then only we are getting the output properly. So for example, what subcomponents are involved in the CLR? Common language runtime means, so it will provide runtime environment or execution environment for all .NET common languages like C#, VB, J#, F#, JScript, C++, and so on, which are support to the .NET. How many languages are supporting to the .NET? And CLR is having 4 subcomponents. First subcomponent is CLS. It means Common Language Specification. Common Language Specification. And then CTS, Common Type System. Common type system. This is nothing but data type system actually. So for data type management purpose, we use this component. Next, third one, which is really important in every language, GC, garbage collector, garbage collector. And then fourth one is just-in-time compiler. Already we included in the above diagram, like execution process, just-in-time compiler, just-in-time compiler. So these are the 4 subcomponents. Okay. So in .NET Core or .NET Framework, CLS, CTS, GC, JIT under the CLR main component. So each and every subcomponent is having its own responsible, sir. Yes. So while executing the program, each and every component will play the important role. For suppose, let me explain CLS. What is the role of CLS, Common Language Specification? As you know that every .NET programming language like C# is there, VB is there, J# is there, F# is there. No matter what programmer selected the language like C# or different languages, right? They can come up with the different language code, but every programming language is having its own syntactical rules and regulations. One programming language cannot understand other programming language syntactical rules and regulations, right? But CLR has to understand all the programming language syntactical rules and regulations. Then only we can say .NET program. .NET supports multiple languages like C#, VB, J#, F#, and so on. How it can understand means, see, for example, as a programmer, I have written the code with C#. Some other programmer may write the code in VB. Other programmer may write the code in J#, like different language, but all are .NET family. Okay. But when it comes to running part, like code execution part, when the code under comes into CLR for execution, the CLS common language specification component will convert all the programming language syntactical rules and regulations into CLR understandable format. Then only the CLR can understand the syntactical rules and regulations of different languages, and it provide execution environment. So CLS main responsibility is to convert all programming language syntactical rules and regulations into CLR understandable format. Fine. Yeah. Next, CTS, common type system. It's called data type system actually. As I said that every language is having its own data type system. Like C# data type system is different. VB data type system is different, like J# and F#. Other language data type system is different, right? But when the code under comes into CLR for execution, so CLR cannot understand all the language data type system. So that's the reason common type system like CTS is responsible to convert all the programming language data type system into CLR understandable format. So the responsibility of CTS is converting all programming language data type system mechanism into CLR understandable format. That is CTS. And finally, the third component, which will play the important role while executing the .NET program execution, that is GC, garbage collector. See, garbage collector is used to provide automatic memory management. Yes, the purpose of garbage collector is automatic memory management, sir. Why automatic memory management? Okay, automatic memory management. So automatic memory management is very simple. When we develop any logic in the application, programmer may create different types of objects, right? Like there are several objects there is a possibility to create by programmer. But here, that objects are sometimes useful, sometimes may not be useful for running your application. So that's the reason garbage collector will divide the objects into two categories generally. One is objects in use, means these are useful objects which are really useful to run our application properly. And next one is idled objects, means these are garbage objects which is unnecessary, occupy the memory. There is no use of these objects, but still these objects are occupy the memory. So this type of objects unnecessary, right? So idled objects can be destroyed from the memory, and for objects in use we should allot the memory. That means these objects should be kept in memory. So this process is nothing but automatic memory management. So someone should be there always to monitor the memory, and if it is unnecessary memory, then that should be free up by deleting idled objects like garbage objects, and making memory free up is important to run the application properly. If no one is there like garbage collector, not performing activities like cleanup activities. Cleanup activities means memory allocation process whenever the objects really need, and memory deallocation process whenever objects don't really need, that objects need to be destroyed. So keep on memory free up and make the availability to execute the application properly. So that is possibility with garbage collector. If imagine that if there is no garbage collector, some extent level you get your application will be fall down due to memory issues. So cleanup activity is very important. But nowadays in any language, programming language, there is a built-in component called garbage collector, which will take care automatic memory management. So you need not to write any explicit logic for memory management purpose, because internally in C#.NET garbage collector only will take all the memory management access. So that is garbage collector working style. But there are internal processes more is there, but that's not required for us now. Generally, destructor concept will be involved in garbage collector. Constructor means generally to construct something, to initialize something, whereas destructor means to destroy something. Garbage collector always will call destructor mechanism
to destroy the to perform the cleanup activities. Once the destructor role has finished, that means cleanup activity is done, then garbage collector will destroy the objects from the memory only. That is the process actually. So these are all comes into CLR, under CLR only it will be process. Like JIT compiler is the compiler which is used in second compilation of .NET program execution, the code when it comes to under CLR. So CLS is responsible to convert the language syntactical rules and regulations into CLR understandable format. CTS is responsible to convert all the programming language data types need to be converted into CLR understandable format. GC is responsible for providing memory. If not yet required, it is going to be free up the memory like cleanup activities. Just-in-time compiler also there in CLR. So 4 subcomponents will work properly or efficiently. Then only your .NET program execution will run correctly. Otherwise, not possible to run. Okay. So this is most important components in .NET application running process. And in .NET, what is the application area? Yes, what kind of applications we can develop using .NET, sir? Let's see application area. What are the applications we develop using .NET also? We included. This is application area of .NET. Okay, yeah. For my last batch, I explained, so that's what I'm not writing again. So this is application area of .NET. See, sir, using .NET, we can develop standalone or desktop applications. Standalone or desktop application means what? The application once we build or develop, so that application need to be installed in a particular system. That system only, in that system only this will work. That is standalone or desktop. It is limited to one particular system or mission. That standalone applications are two types: console application, Windows Forms application. Console application will provide CUI facilities, command user interface or character user interface. So every time we are going to deal with console application means like command prompt applications. You are giving input in the form of characters and you are going to get output also in the form of characters, right? So characters, always we are seeing the input and output process with command prompt only. Whereas Windows Forms application means GUI, graphical user interface, GUI facilities, like window form in the sense, for example, you can see Notepad, this is window form, or else calculator, this is window form. This type of applications, this is window form actually, Microsoft window forms, buttons, labels, text boxes. This type of design is there in Windows Forms application. And not only we can build or develop standalone or desktop applications using .NET, web applications also or online application also we will develop. Online applications, these are also called as what? Distributed applications. Distributed applications. Yes, sir. Web applications, how we can develop in .NET Core, ASP.NET through. Because I said already ASP.NET is literally for web application development with MVC architecture, entity framework, web API, all these things. Okay. So with ASP.NET along with coding what? C#.NET language only again. So we can develop web application. This application can run around the globe once we host our website onto the server. Just users can access these websites or web application by typing the web address. How we are typing like www.facebook.com, www.flipkart.com, that is same thing only. And using .NET, we can develop gaming applications, mobile applications, network-based applications, business applications. Okay, these also it is possible. So that's what .NET is not for specific application development. .NET is for general application development is possible. Okay. Yeah, I'll cover Windows Forms and ASP.NET, everything. What I'll cover exactly, look at this console application, major portion of the C#.NET, Windows Forms with the design controls with the ADO.NET concept like database communication, and web application always it is important. It is we will cover in ASP.NET Core applications, and remaining applications like web API. Windows service, web services is not, because we are having web API, right? That's enough. Web service is the old pattern, that is extension. Windows Communication Foundation is there. Even this extension is web API. It's the latest one. But I'm telling you possible applications, but not all required. Like, so we'll cover MVC applications, and web services like web API and web applications, Windows Forms with ADO.NET Console maximum. But gaming application, mobile application, network application, this is not our cup of tea. So who want to develop only gaming developers, they use that gaming application. Mobile developers, they use Xamarin tools with C#.NET. Okay. So gaming developers with C#.NET with Unity concept, they need to learn. So that is different criteria. So Windows presentation foundation applications are extension of Windows Forms. Okay. Windows Communication Foundation is an extension of Windows Web Services. So these many applications we can build using .NET, web services, Windows services, web API, MVC, WCF, WPF, lot more. Not only these list out, whatever I list out here. Okay. So this is total complete introduction is completed last session, and this session what we discuss application area, .NET components, execution process, versions and all. And without having any delay, tomorrow session I'll start with C#.NET, because I said first 45 working days to 50 working days you must focus on C#.NET. Once you get the proper knowledge on C#.NET, then only you can able to start learning with ASP.NET. So without having C#.NET knowledge, we cannot go for ASP.NET. And SQL Server, any point of time you can learn. Okay. Some students are coming for 6 p.m. also SQL Server. That's good, because your course will be finished early as we expected. So 4 months, 4.5 months not. So you are going parallelly, right? That's good. Okay, no problem. So there is no related to C# and ASP. SQL Server, any point of time you can learn. But if you without having C#, I don't recommend ASP.NET. It's not possible. You can't understand. So this is the order of learning. So tomorrow we'll start with C#.NET, just basic introduction. Immediately we will launch Visual Studio 2022 and we will start coding part also in C#.NET. Okay. So that's all for today. Still you have 2 more demo sessions tomorrow and day after tomorrow. Feel free to use the same link at same time at 7 p.m. Attend demo sessions 2 more. After that you can decide, sir. If you have any questions, you can feel free to ask me. And one more thing, who are new to this session, you feel this is first session of yours. Yesterday only we started demo session. Once you complete this session, our team will keep in touch with you, and they'll send the yesterday demo link and today demo link, video link. Okay. You can click on that link directly, you will redirect to YouTube video. Please watch it. So once 4 demos completed, like tomorrow and day after tomorrow also, once your enrollment process is over, once you are member of this course, then I'll collect your mail ID from DURGASOFT and I can start share the video lectures. So for what I conduct, and C#.NET complete PDF material to your mail. So this is from my side today. So if you have any question, go ahead. All right. Thanks for attending this session. Have a nice time. See you tomorrow.